We need to talk about this story because this might just be the most devilish man you've ever seen. So, this TikTok girl named Osage Jennifer was brutally murdered by her baby daddy in France after giving birth to 3 children for him.
All right, strap in, everyone. This one is, it's tough, but important. We're diving deep into the case of Jennifer Osai.
Yeah, tragic case.
We're working from a YouTube video, true crime channel, a lot of info out there. What seems like a straightforward discovery,
Oh, it gets messy fast.
it does. Jennifer's remains found in a refrigerator, her partner, Emmanuel, arrested. But was it an accident, like he says?
That's where things get interesting and disturbing, frankly. This case is all about layers of manipulation. Way more than just physical abuse. It's about controlling her entire reality.
Exactly. So today we're piecing together those events leading up to Jennifer's death, relationship with Emmanuel, the father of her kids, all the strange circumstances. Before we get to that, though, how did they even meet? What was their relationship like before things went so wrong?
Well, that's where it gets twisted right from the start. See, Jennifer was actually on her way to France to meet her then-boyfriend, Alex.
Okay.
Along the way, she meets Emmanuel. Turns out, Alex's brother.
Oh, wow.
Jennifer gets stranded. Alex asks Emmanuel to look after her until they can meet up.
So just a brother helping out seems reasonable enough at first.
Right, except Emmanuel uses this chance to get close to Jennifer. Starts spinning all these lies, saying Alex is married, has kids, doesn't even want to see her.
What? That's awful. Talk about betraying trust. He took advantage of her being alone, vulnerable in a new country.
Absolutely, and this is textbook manipulation. Isolate her from Alex, her support system, then he becomes the only one she can rely on.
And it worked. The source says this is when she got pregnant with Emmanuel's child. And he denies it, pressures her into an abortion.
Classic gaslighting. Make her doubt her own reality, that's what manipulators do. Imagine being Jennifer, pregnant, alone, the father saying you're making it up. Horrible.
It's heartbreaking. She was only 18 at the time.
And that's what makes it worse. You're figuring things out, more susceptible to this kind of thing, maybe not enough experience to see the red flags.
It's a reminder that anyone can be a victim. So did Jennifer ever confront Alex about the lies?
She did, eventually, but the damage was done. Emmanuel poisoned that relationship. Those seeds of doubt were planted. Tragically, despite everything, she ends up in a relationship with Emmanuel. 2 more children with him, too.
It's that pattern you see so often. Victims get trapped, dependence and fear make it so hard to escape.
Absolutely. And it doesn't sound like Jennifer was any different. The source details a history of alleged abuse towards her and the kids. Control, violence, intimidation, the whole package.
He even convinced her to falsely accuse his ex-girlfriend of human trafficking. The ex ends up in prison. It's mind-boggling how far he'd go, using Jennifer like a tool for his own gain.
Yeah, points to a real disturbing pattern there. No regard for anyone else, just himself. And this is where it takes that even darker turn.
Because it goes beyond a toxic relationship, this ends in tragedy. We left off with Jennifer in this awful situation with Emmanuel, who clearly has no problem using people. But how did it escalate to this point? To her death?
That's the question, isn't it? The one that hangs over this whole thing. Jennifer did eventually leave, found the strength, got a new apartment, took the kids. Seemed like she was breaking free.
But it wasn't that simple, was it?
No. Emmanuel finds his way back into her life. According to the source, she got pregnant again. 4th time. And it seems like that's when things went really bad.
The source speculates that maybe Jennifer was pulling away again. Maybe that led to some kind of confrontation.
It's possible. And then we have the discovery of her remains. In the refrigerator, dismembered. It's chilling.
Horrible. And the police were there for a welfare check. That's when they caught Emmanuel trying to get rid of the body.
Like he was trying to erase her, cover it all up.
Yeah.
But of course, that just makes it more suspicious.
And his explanation? He claims she fell during an argument, an accident. But given his history...
Hard to believe anything he says at face value. That's what's so frustrating about this case. Trying to separate truth from lies. It's like a puzzle with missing pieces.
Jennifer's friends, her TikTok followers, they were shocked. The source talks about this disbelief online, like the life she showed on social media versus this nightmare behind closed doors.
It reminds you, we only see what people choose to show us online. Easy to forget everyone has struggles going on.
And for Jennifer, that struggle was deadly. Where does the investigation stand now?
Emmanuel's been arrested, but he's claiming insanity, according to the source. trying to avoid a trial.
That's disturbing, using mental illness as a way to escape consequences.
Raises all sorts of questions about the legal system, how we handle accountability.
The source also brought up concerns about bias. Everyone involved is Nigerian. Could that impact how seriously the French authorities take this case?
It's a valid point. Systemic bias, the potential for unequal treatment, especially for marginalized communities, something we can't ignore.
Makes you think about the bigger picture here. What can we learn from Jennifer's story? How do we even start to address this kind of manipulative behavior?
That's the key question. It highlights these red flags we should all be looking out for. Isolation, for one. Emmanuel did that right away, cutting Jennifer off from Alex, her support.
Right, then he controls the narrative.
Right.
Gaslighting, making her question her own mind, seems like he was good at that.
He was, always twisting things to fit his needs. And that need for control, that's another big one. Finances, social life, everything. Just like we saw with Jennifer.
He even got her involved in that criminal scheme, making it even harder for her to leave.
Horrible pattern of behavior,
Oh.
and as we see, can have tragic consequences.
Jennifer's case also shines a light on domestic abuse. It's so common, but often hidden.
A silent epidemic, really. People from all walks of life affected. Secrecy, shame, it makes it so hard for victims to speak up.
It can happen anywhere. Even in families that seem normal from the outside, we have to be more aware, more vigilant, and support people who might be in those situations.
Absolutely. Create a culture where victims feel safe to speak out, where abusers are held accountable. But that starts with understanding these dynamics, recognizing the warning signs.
So what can we do as individuals to combat this behavior and support victims? What are some concrete steps? It's that question that just keeps coming back to me, What can we actually do? It's heavy stuff, and it feels so big. Like, where do we even start?
It is big, yeah. But we're not helpless. It's like,
Yeah.
think of ripples, right, in a pond. Our own actions, they might seem small, but they can spread out, have a bigger effect over time.
Okay, so what are those ripples then? What can we do specifically?
The first thing, and probably the most powerful, is just awareness. The more we understand how manipulation works, the better chance we have of spotting it. And not just in relationships, but with friends, family, even at work. It's everywhere.
So those red flags we talked about, isolation, gaslighting, that controlling behavior.
Exactly. It's not about being suspicious of everyone, but just having that knowledge, that informed view.
Mm.
We need to educate ourselves and each other about these tactics.
What if you think someone is being manipulated, though, or abused? That's got to be tough to approach, right?
It is, and there's no easy answer. But the most important thing is to believe them, first and foremost. Just listen, no judgment, offer support, let them know they're not alone in this.
Yeah.
So often, victims get shut down, feel like they're overreacting, it's awful.
That validation is huge, yeah. But what if they're not ready to leave or to get help? What do you do then?
It's hard. You can't force someone to take action before they're ready. But you can be there for them, provide information, hotlines, shelters, counseling, things like that. It might empower them when they are ready.
We'll be sure to put links to some of those resources in the show notes for this one.
Good idea. And even if it's not something we're facing directly, we can advocate for change in bigger ways. Support organizations working to fight domestic violence, push for better education in schools about healthy relationships. It all helps create a more supportive environment.
It's about changing the whole culture, isn't it? Not letting these behaviors slide as if they're normal or okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that means challenging those norms that silence victims. Think about how we talk about domestic abuse. There's so much victim blaming. What could they have done differently instead of holding the abuser responsible?
Yeah, it's easy to fall into those ways of thinking without even noticing.
Right. So we have to be aware of our language, question those biases, and just make it clear that victims have a safe space to speak up.
This deep dive has been a lot to process, honestly, but I think you've given our listeners a lot to think about, and hopefully some solid ways to take action.
I hope so. Jennifer's story is a terrible tragedy, but it can also be a push for change, awareness, supporting victims, challenging these harmful norms. It's how we honor her memory and try to stop this from happening to others.
It shows that we all have a part to play in making the world safer, more just. Thanks for joining us for this one. And remember, you're not alone. There is help out there.